And if you have been paying attention to the news, if you have been kind of watching and seeing what's going on around the country and around the world in terms of health, then you know that diabetes is one of those diseases that continues to plague us. You know, we've talked about the statistics. We've talked about the numbers. Over 460 million people around the world, 37 million in the United States alone that suffer from diabetes. And here in this space, the quest for this year is, how do we put diabetes in remission? How do we get off of the medication? How do we improve our lives? And in this episode, we're going to talk about one of those things that, you know, is kind of that hush hush that nobody ever really delves into. That is stress and its effect on blood sugars. That's right. Stress has an effect on blood sugars. And here in this space, because we want to put your diabetes in remission, because we want to reverse diabetes, we're going to spend some time tonight talking about how stress and the hormones in our body affects our blood sugar. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level, y'all. We're creating the life we've always wanted. And in this year, new year, new you. And I welcome you. I welcome you. I do see some people out there. Just shout out. I see Key Washington. Hey, Key, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad that you are here with us. She said, good evening. And then I see Teresa Graham. She said, hello, Dr. Wood and everyone. If you're out there, whatever platform you are watching on, we are streaming on Facebook. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on TikTok. Not TikTok. We're streaming on X, or the old Twitter, and we're streaming on LinkedIn. So glad that you're here. Jeff is here as well. Jeff says hello. And we're moving, y'all. We're moving through the process. We're moving through this putting our diabetes in remission. And as we do, y'all, we're going to show you what our blood sugars are as we get into the evening. You've been watching me, and we've been doing some shorts. We've been doing some check-ins, and let me go ahead and pull that up so you can see that we've got all of our stuff ready. We're going to check our blood sugars here. You see my monitor there. That is the Libre. And one of the things I want to talk about is something that I've noticed between the Libre and the Dexcom. But we'll get into that as we get into the show tonight. If you have not done so, please go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and hit the share button, because we want other people around to know what is going on and what we're doing in this space. But welcome. Okay, so we'll look at our numbers here in a little bit, but let's go ahead and let's hop into it, y'all. Let's hop into it, and let's take a look first of all, before we do that, and see where we've been and where we are heading. So what's been our path so far? Okay, so what has been our path so far? Our path has been that we have talked about lots of different things here in the space, and over the course of the last month, right, we've done several shows, and on our channel you'll see those shows there, starting with the very first show that we did. What are the first steps to really take charge of your health, right? So what do we need to do? How do we get ourselves ready? We introduced fasting as one of those key components that we're going to be using throughout this year, y'all. And you know what we do. You know how we do it. We talked about which diabetes medications you should initially talk to your doctor about getting off. We talked about some medications that you may want to discuss about getting on. And we'll talk more about why that was. If you remember, we talked about the sulfonylureas or the secretagogues. We talked about some of those medications that suppress the appetite. Then we had a discussion about how do we go about adjusting those medications, bringing them down. And then last week, how to navigate our triggers. And as we move into the space, as we move into what are we going to do, how do we get this moving, how do we get this going, remember our key, right? The key thought that we have had is that diabetes is really not a sugar problem. That's right. Diabetes is not a sugar problem. The blood sugars that we have are consequences of whatever the underlying problem is with our diabetes. And the underlying problem, as you guys remember, is insulin. And we're talking specifically to adults with type 2 diabetes, right? Type 1 diabetes, diabetics, remember, they require insulin. We've not yet found a way to treat them without insulin. So we're talking specifically here, adults with type 2 diabetes. But also remember that as we move into the space of talking about diabetes and talking about the things that we do for diabetes, insulin, because of the nature of what it does, it has an effect on so many other parts of the body. So while insulin is a potent lowerer of blood sugar, it also has the ability to make you hungry. It has the ability to make you put on weight, retain weight. It has problems or implications in fatty liver disease, metabolic syndrome, obesity, high blood pressure, and on and on and on. And let me just take a sip here because my voice is like it's cracking. All right, so insulin. And so our goal in all that we do is, first of all, to suppress the insulin or decrease the amount of insulin that we're taking in, which was why we talked about those medications that were secretagogues that force the body or makes the body make insulin. So those are the first group that we talked about. We also talked about decreasing the amount of total insulin that we're taking, because and this is a perhaps a good space or place to have just a small conversation. Insulin in the body, like someone who's not diabetic, insulin in the body is a normal hormone. Insulin in the body is a normal hormone. It does what it's supposed to do at the levels that the body normally makes. It is when that insulin level begins to rise that then not only does it now help to manage blood sugar, but it starts to have significant implications in the other things that it's doing. Right? It's kind of like we always think that if a little bit of something is good, then more of it is better. Not necessarily with insulin, right? So the insulin, the body, the amount of insulin that the body makes normally is great. But as we start to get higher and higher levels of insulin, we start to see the complications that come from the elevated amounts of insulin. So our goal is always decreasing the amount of insulin that we're taking in, that is the medication, the insulin, decreasing the amount of medications that force our bodies to make insulin, those are the secretagogues. And then how do we, in the body itself, handle the amount of insulin that it is making so that it becomes more sensitive, right? And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight is that exact process. The body is a very smart system. And your body's job, its function, is to keep you alive. And so the body will do everything that it can to keep you alive and in that space. And let's run through our stress system here. So as we talk about stress, right? We talk about stress. And if you remember, remember HEAT, right? So we talked last week about habits, emotions, access, and taste. That E, right? The emotion component. Most of the things that are in that emotions or in those emotions have to do with stress. All right. So most of those are stress. So what's going on in stress? What's going on in stress? So what happens in stress is that your body goes through hormonal and neurologic changes, physiologic changes that gets it ready to handle the stress. Let me back up and let me tell you a story. You guys remember last year, right? Actually coming up in March. So I went on a whitewater rafting trip. You know, we were in Carolinas. We went to see a basketball game. My son is a big basketball fan, and so we went there, and we were on this trek to see some basketball games. And so we went to see the Charlotte Hornets play the Denver Nuggets, and so we were over there. And so it was one of the teams that we needed to get on our list, right? So we've got this bucket list that we're working on. And so anyway, so we went out, and so while we were there, somebody in my house convinced me that we should go whitewater rafting as part of this trip. So I went whitewater rafting, and we sat and we watched the little video that they showed, the one where they say, if anything happens, we're not responsible. So you watch the video, you sign the piece of paper, and you went and you put on all the life jackets, life vests, you got the helmet and all the stuff. And so now we're in the raft, y'all. And I'm watching the video. I saw the video and I put on the stuff, and I'm sitting in the raft and I'm thinking to myself, what are the chances that I'm going to be the one that falls out of the raft? Oh yeah, never say that to yourself, because guess what? You're going to be the one that falls out. So we're there, and so the raft master, he's back there, and so we've got, I think it was 4 people on one side, 4 people on the other side. I think that was the number. And so we're going over these rapids, and he's like, and as he's calling, right, you're supposed to dig in with your oar, and and so we're going. And we get to this one spot, and we go over the rocks, and we come down, and there's a little kind of whirlpool right after you get over the rocks, and we kind of got stuck, right? So our raft is stuck in there, and we're, he's like, pull, and so we're pulling, and the goal was to get up the rapids are going, and so we're in this whirlpool between a bunch of rocks, by the way, and as the goal is to kind of pull until you get over the rocks, and then once you get over this next set of rocks, then you get into kind of a more calm area of this river that we were on. And so so we're calling, we go, and we tried to get up, and we made it halfway up, and we came back down. And so now he's okay, guys, we're gonna have to dig in, and we went and we started rowing, and the guy on the front where I was supposed to, he's supposed to be leading our side, and didn't do that. So what happened was he actually lost his row, and he started to fall out. And as he started to fall out, our raft kind of tilted to the side that we're on. And I'm in the back, I'm the last one on that side. And as the raft went up, he fell out, and everybody's trying to help him. And I'm in the back, and the raft is almost on its side. And so I fall out. Not an issue yet, right? Not an issue yet. But then what happens, right? They said to grab on to the perimeter rope. So I grab onto the perimeter rope, except that, remember, we're still in this area where it's swirling. And so I ended up under the raft. And y'all, do you know what's under a raft that's in water? No air. Okay. And so in that entire process, right, you can imagine, right, my heart is beating, and my blood pressure probably went up, and my blood sugars were probably going up. Now, here's the thing. In that instance, it made sense for my blood sugar to go up. It made sense for my blood pressure to go up. It made sense for my eyes to constrict. It made sense for my body to pump a lot of sugar into me, right? Because I needed it. And that is called the stress response. But when that response is prolonged, then it starts to cause issues for the body. And that's what we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. Let's get back to a stress response. So phases, there are 3 phases or three stages of stress. Alarm, then there's the resistant stage, and then the exhaustion stage. Now, prior to the resistance exhaustion, let's talk about the alarm. So the alarm phase, right? The nervous system is awakened. So you fall out of the raft. You are in a car accident. You're walking down the street and you see someone that looks shady in front of you. You're at home and you hear a noise. So automatically, the body goes into alert. So there's a part of the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala says, and is that part that is responsible for our interpretation, right? So fear. And the amygdala says, hey, I see something, or I hear something, or I smell something. I smell fire. Right? So the amygdala says, hey, there's something going on, and it sends a signal to the rest of the body. And it actually sends two signals. It sends a nervous system signal, and it also sends a hormonal signal, right? So nervous system and hormonal system, the amygdala. And in the process of sending those signals, then the body begins looking for and preparing for that particular issue that you're seeing, right? So you'll see there, as part of the brain, right, that amygdala that's there in the back sends a signal to a part of the brain called the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is, everybody talks about the pituitary as the regulator of hormones, but the hypothalamus really is the big boss. And so hypothalamus says, hey, pituitary, I need you to send a signal to the adrenal, and because we need some cortisol. Those are the stress hormones, cortisol, epinephrine. And if you guys remember, one of my favorite shows and one of my favorite superheroes was the Incredible Hulk. Remember him? It's the Incredible Hulk, right? David Banner. So he was irradiated, and now whenever he got upset, he turned into this big green, powerful, strong, quote unquote, monster, as people called him, right? What happened to David Banner was that his adrenals, right, that part of the body that produced stress hormones, whenever his adrenals began releasing hormones, he released an abnormal amount and an abnormal functioning hormone. And so he became this great big green guy. But that's what stress hormones do. Stress hormones are the hormones that come out. Someone gets into a car accident and they've broken a leg, y'all, in the accident, or they've broken an arm, or they've been injured in the accident, and they get out of the car and they go over and they help somebody else who was in the accident as well. And it's not until they calm down that they realize, oh my God, my arm hurts. Do you know why they were able to do that? Because of adrenaline, because of stress hormones. Because stress hormones have the ability to give energy to handle whatever it is. It is why the lion chases the zebra. And the lion's hungry, but the zebra gets away. Why? Because the zebra's adrenaline hits into or shoots into high gear, and the zebra's adrenaline produces a bunch of hormones, and the zebra's muscles are now awakened, and the zebra takes off, and the zebra is gone. So the lion's now hungry. It's why you hear those stories of appearingly superhuman ability. Mom is sitting on a stoop in the city, and she's watching as her kid is playing on the sidewalk or on the street, and something happens, and a truck or a car runs the red light and hops the sidewalk and is heading towards her child. And mom has this superhuman strength and speed, and she dashes over, grabs the kid away, and saves the child from getting hit by the car. How was she able to do that? Because of stress hormones. They give us that ability to function. So the body senses stress. The amygdala sends a signal to the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus says, hey, body, I need you now to start working. So I'm going to get you ready. I'm sending a signal to the adrenals, so I need some cortisol, I need some stress hormones, and I'm sending a signal to the rest of the body. These are nervous system responses, and we'll talk about both those here in a minute. So that's how the stress response works. And then the body is able to get you through whatever the stress is, get you away from the danger. And then what's supposed to happen is that the danger, once it's gone, your body begins to now calm down again. That's a normal stress response, y'all. Okay? That's how it's supposed to work. And the parts of the body that do that, as I've been mentioning, the pituitary, the adrenals, you don't need to know all of that right now, but we'll come back and talk a little bit more about those. So how is the stress response activated? As I said, you have a perception of fear. You see a lion. You hear a noise in the night, or you see someone who's dangerous, or you're at the edge of a cliff and you look over and you're like, oh my goodness, right? So there's the perception that gets sent to the brain. The brain sends a response to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus says, hey, I need cortisol, I need stress hormones, and hey, sympathetic system, hey, I need you to do some things. Now, let's talk through those. Well, what happens in the sympathetic system? Well, your heart rate goes up. Why does your heart rate go up? Because your body has to now send more energy throughout the system. So the heart has to move faster so that the energy that now is being produced in the body can flow around to all the muscles, to your eyes, to your heart, to your lungs. So the heart rate has to go up. Your blood pressure has to go up. Why does the blood pressure have to go up? Because now we've got to force the blood to go where it needs to go, right? We're heightening. The blood pressure has to go up. Your eyes, right, will constrict. Why do eyes constrict? Because you've got to see farther now than where you are. Because I need to get over there, not stay right here. So all these physiologic things are going on in the body to begin moving us in the direction. And then cortisol goes out, and cortisol is the thing that says, hey, I need to get some energy, right? And the energy part is what we're gonna spend some time actually talking through as we go through this discussion. All right. Does that make sense? So that is the activation of the stress response. So, and then there, here are these physiologic changes. So release adrenaline, we release cortisol. Those are the two hormones. We mobilize glucose. Yeah, that's the one right there, guys. And then we suppress non-essential functions. Let's go backwards. We're going to start with suppressing non-essential functions. Well, what are non-essential functions? Well, if I'm running from a lion, I don't need to digest food. So the body turns off digestion. If I'm running from a lion, I don't need to bear children. I don't need to reproduce. So the body shuts down the reproductive system. The body shuts down sperm production. It shuts down ovulation. If I'm running from a lion, right, I don't need to remember that my wife and my kid is at home waiting for me to come home for dinner, right? I need to get away from the lion. I don't need to be thinking about them right now. So the body, the cortisol that comes out decreases memory. Right? I don't need that for my hair to grow on my arms. I don't need for my skin to grow. I don't need for my nails to grow. So all of those things that are not essential, the body shuts down. Now that's going to be important for us here in a minute when we come back to talk about chronic stress. Now we're talking about just the initial, you see something wrong, you're in the stress response, and the body's dealing with it. And that is great in the short term. When it becomes a problem is in the long term, right? When it becomes chronic. Okay, so we shut down all the things that we don't need right now. That's why when people are stressed, they get ulcers. because the body shuts down or diverts blood from the GI tract, from the digestion. Because right now I don't need to digest food. So all the blood that's normally going into my GI tract gets shunted to my heart, to my lungs, to my muscles. And if that's the case, what happens to the lining of the stomach if it doesn't have enough energy, if it doesn't have enough blood? Well, it breaks down and people develop ulcers. If I'm stressed, I don't need hair. So during stress, people lose their hair. Their nails become brittle. Their skin becomes dry. Women lose menstrual cycles. Men their sperm count goes down. Right? Notice all of those are not essential during a stressful time. In the initial acute setting, that's great because I can utilize that energy for something else. But long term, I want to be able to have hair. Right? I want my skin to be nice and soft. I want to have nice nails. I want to have children. But if we're in a stressful situation, that doesn't happen. All right, right. So you're starting to see the connection. And then the question, and so once again, these are just other things that you will see that go on with blood sugars, right? These are other items that you will see. Well, not blood sugars, but in the stress response, right? So on the we talked about the eyes, right, constricting. Your pupils, dilating. Pupils dilate because you got to see far. Your heart rate goes up, right? Your adrenals are producing hormones. Your stomach slows because you don't need to digest anything, right? So all of those issues that you see that a lot of times people will have when they're stressed are a natural consequence, and it is the body trying to protect itself and conserve the energy that it needs. Okay. So what are some metabolic changes that are caused by stress? And this is where we're going to spend some time. So number one, when cortisol comes out, cortisol's job is to find energy in the body. That's the job. That's the function of cortisol. It goes into the body and it says, hey, I need to get more energy. And so it starts to break down the glycogen that's in your liver so it can use it for sugar. So blood sugar goes up. So why does blood sugar initially go up? Because your body needs more energy. You're getting ready to run. You saw something, you heard something that's scary, and the body's saying, hey, in order to deal with this, I've got to get energy. So it goes and it finds energy and it raises your blood sugar. Cortisol, when it comes out, suppresses insulin. Because what's insulin's job? Insulin's job is to decrease blood sugar. Well, if I am running, I don't want my blood sugar to go down. I want to keep my blood sugar as high as possible so I can access all of the sugar that's available to me. So not only does the body, the cortisol, the stress response say, hey, let me find some sugar, raise the blood sugar. Now let me suppress the insulin so my blood sugar doesn't go down. Right? So 2 birds right there. And then I think I'm going to need more energy. So now let me go find some additional energy so it starts breaking down the fat cells. Now everybody thinks that that's a good thing, but no, it's not a good thing, right? Not in the long term. So it takes the fat cells, it breaks them down into what are called glycerol and free fatty acids. The glycerol gets converted to sugar. So once again, that's the third place where sugar goes up. So first we break down glycogen, then we suppress the insulin. Now we're breaking down fat and we're making sugar from the fat. And if I got these two components, right? I got the free fatty acids and I've got the glycerol. where do you think the free fatty acids go? Right? So now we've got fatty acids floating around the blood. Right? Now they can cause damage. And then the body says, maybe I need more energy. So now it starts to break down proteins. And those proteins become amino acids. Those amino acids cause us to produce more sugar. So I want you to watch that progression. We found sugar, right? Breaking down the glycogen. Then we suppress the insulin so that the sugar doesn't go down. Then we broke down fat and created some glucose. And then we broke down protein and created some glucose. So at every stage right there, the body's job is to find energy to keep you going. Now that's wonderful. And what's supposed to happen is when the acute issue goes away, when you get away from the lion, when you are out of the car accident, when the intruder is no longer there, your body is supposed to now calm down. The stress hormones go down. Your heart rate goes down, right? Your eyes constrict again. Your lungs, you're not breathing as fast. When the cortisol goes down, the cortisol stops breaking down protein. The blood sugar goes down. It stops breaking down fat. Blood sugar goes down. It makes the insulin that your body produces more sensitive. So the blood sugar goes down. And it stops breaking down glycogen. So the blood sugar goes down. Now here's the kicker, y'all. You want to hear it? You ready for it? The kicker is this. That the body responds to a real threat in the same way as it responds to a perceived threat. Let me say that again. The body responds to a real threat. If there's actually a lion sitting, standing, running in front of you, if you're in a car accident and you break an arm, break a leg, you have an injury. If an intruder comes into your house, an actual person there with you, your body will go through the response, the stress response. But it responds the same way if you convince yourself that the fact that you didn't study for that exam means the end of the world. The body responds the same way. You have an argument with your husband, your wife, your brother, your sister, right? A coworker. You go into work every morning and you dread going in. The body responds the same way as if it saw a lion. The same exact physiologic processes go on. The same neurologic processes go on. Right? That's why people say, man, I was so nervous that my stomach started churning. Right? I had a lady who, she had one of these monitors that I have. Well, actually, she didn't have a monitor first, right? But her blood sugars were high. And we put a monitor on her. And every morning we'd see a big spike. I forgot what time it was, but it was, it wasn't the dawn phenomenon spike. It was like later in the morning. And so she comes in and we saw this spike. And one day I said to her, what happens at 10 o'clock? And I'm just using 10 o'clock. It wasn't 10 o'clock. I can't remember the exact time. I said, what happens at 10 o'clock? And she says, oh, Joe comes in. And I'm just using Joe. It's not the real person, right? So her and Joe were so, she didn't like working with Joe. Whenever Joe came in, it was stressful for her. And just right before this coworker of hers came in, where she had to spend the entire day with them, we saw the blood sugars rise, and they stayed there until she left work. The power of stress. So the body responds in exactly the same way, whether it's a perceived stress, perceived danger, or whether it's a real danger. And the issue is that we spend so much of our time in perceived stress. We've convinced ourselves that this particular thing is a danger. It is a stressful event. And because we always have this tonic level of stress, then the blood sugars are a little higher. And if the blood sugars are higher, y'all, guess what has to happen? So we talked about the acute phase, right? The acute phase is you see some stressor, your body responds, produces sugar, you run away from the line, you get away from the line, and good, and everything kind of comes back down. Well, what happens if you're always there? The body now adapts to that. And so the blood sugars are a little higher than they should be. Your insulin doesn't work as well as it should. You're breaking down these fat cells and you're creating sugar and free fatty acids. And now your cholesterol goes up. And what do you think happens to free fatty acids? They go into the liver. They become non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Because you're stressed, the blood sugars rise higher and higher, and the insulin is less able to manage it, so you develop diabetes. Because there's this constant tonic stress. Oh, and man, wait a minute. I didn't talk about one of the things. So, after you recover from stress, right? So you saw a lion, you ran from the lion, you got away from the lion, right? Acute event. In that process, right after you got away from the lion, what does your body do? The body says, hey, I just used up a lot of energy, so I have to now go replenish the energy. And how does it replenish the energy? It makes you eat. That's why a lot of times people go through a stressful event, stressful time, and they eat because the body is trying to replenish the energy that it thinks they burned during the event. Well, if you're always there, you're always in the stressful event, always producing cortisol, always producing epinephrine, then you are always hungry. You guys see that progression? So our goal is to manage stress. Notice I say not eliminate, because we can't always eliminate stress. Now, if you have a job that you don't like, you could leave the job, great. But not everybody can do that. We cannot change the event. We cannot change the stressful situation, but we could change our response to it. And notice I said the body responds to real threats and perceived threats in the same way. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how we manage that here in just a minute. Let's see. Let's see who we got out there. So Key says, she says, wow, that is deep. Yeah, Key, this stuff right here is, we don't talk much about this response as it comes to diabetes. I mean, you kind of do a cursory, hey, manage your stress, get some sleep and so forth. But to really understand what it is we do to ourselves in the stressful event, in the stressful times, that's a whole nother conversation. Teresa says, that explains everything, doctor. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. Teresa, isn't it amazing? Yeah. I now, so let me jump in here. Let me add, right? Let me make a connection. You guys remember we talked about the HEAT, right? HEAT that we did last week, and that is our acronym for the categories of triggers that push us to eat beyond hunger, right? Remember, we eat because of habits, we eat because of emotions, we eat because of access, and we eat because of taste. Yeah. So in that E, the emotions, there are so many things that we're gonna have to come back and do like shows about some of that stuff, right? So emotions, right? So not just your I'm feeling sad. I mean, sad, happy, glad, mad, anxious, disappointed, tired, and we can go on and on and on and on and on and on. And every little bit adds up. So our goal is, how do we deal with as many of these as possible? Because if we can do that, that's one less place where our blood sugars rise. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about what that means. Okay. All right. And Tatiana, hey, Tatiana, welcome. Glad that you are here hanging out with us. I saw you were on a show recently. I haven't watched it yet, but yay. Okay. I'm going to get out there and watch it. If you've not watched Tatiana, she is amazing. She was on our show a little over a year ago, and thank you for coming through and hanging out with us. And so, talking about shows, there is one that I do want to plug. This past weekend, or this past Friday, I was on a show that I want to say to you, if you've not seen, if you've not watched, I do want you to go over and support them. And it is, let's see, how do I do that? Okay, here it is. It is, it's called the Pastors Roundtable. And it is with 3 amazing pastors who are actually pastoring. And I was on there with Dr. Columbus Batiste, who is a cardiologist, and we were talking about this is Black History Month, of course, and so we were talking about the effect of the heritage of African Americans, the effect of that on their health. Right. If you know the history of African Americans during the time of slavery, the foods that they were given, the foods that were eaten, the recipes that were created, the ways of preparing food and eating were a direct result of the things that they were given and the conditions that they found themselves in. And so today, as we eat, it is a history that has been passed down in terms of flavors and the types of foods. And as we've been talking about, food has such an amazing ability to heal, but it also has an amazing and detrimental ability to cause disease. And so Dr. Columbus Batiste and I were guests on the show with these amazing gentlemen as we talked about the effect of food, the effect of slave food on the culture and on the way we eat and on diseases. So please go over there, support them, like the show, share it with your family, with your friends. It was an amazing conversation. We were hoping to get back with them and do some additional things. But right now, I want you, as our viewers, as our community, to support what they're doing. And then, of course, I was on the show. And when you go over there, I'm not going to say if. I want you to put hashtag DwayneWoodMD so they know that you are one of our community members that you're coming over and that you are supporting them. Okay. And so that was Friday, the Black History and so Black History Month is the series that they're doing. And like I said, it was an amazing conversation that we had over there. Thank you. All right. All right. So let's talk a little bit. Let's hop back over. Remember, guys, if you have questions, Tatiana says, oh, my pleasure. If you do have questions, go ahead and pop those in the chat. Let us know that you're there. Put a Q in front of the question, and we will be sure to get to those. If you're watching this on the replay right now, put hashtag replay. And of course, I want you to make sure that you are sharing with your family and friends what we're doing on the channel. All right. So let's bring it home. Let's bring it home. Let me back up. Let me recap. Our goal is to reverse diabetes. We're talking specifically adults with type 2 diabetes. Adults with type 2 diabetes, we want to reverse it. We want to decrease the amount of medication that you're taking. We want to help to make you healthier. If you are here and you're watching and you say, wait a minute, I'm not diabetic, so this doesn't apply to me. Hold it. Don't go away yet. Because the things that we talk about for our diabetics, we're talking about decreasing insulin, the issues that we have with high blood pressure, with weight issues, polycystic ovarian syndrome, metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, people who are at risk for coronary artery disease, people who are at risk for strokes, all of that ties into insulin. That's why I keep saying the numbers, 462 million people around the world with diabetes. That's just, y'all, the people with diabetes. We're not talking about the people with pre-diabetes or the people who are obese or the people who have polycystic ovarian syndrome. If we can decrease our insulin, then all of those diseases get better. So while we're talking to the diabetic specifically, because we're reversing, don't negate what we're discussing because it has direct application to you as well. Okay? All right. So what do we do? What do we do? What do we do, y'all? What do we do? You can't change the situation that you're in sometimes. Like if you got a job and it is the place where you make your living and you're supporting your family, you can't walk in tomorrow. I mean, I suppose you could, but very few of us will be able to walk in tomorrow and say, you know what, you guys are stressing me out, so I'm gone. If you're in a relationship that's causing stress, sometimes it's difficult to leave the relationship. You have a child, you have a mom or a dad who is ill or not doing the things that you think they should be doing. That causes stress. You can't just all of a sudden just disappear from the child. I suppose you could. You shouldn't. But how do we respond to those things? I'm sure you know someone who seems like, man, nothing ever bothers them. Like they seem to have it all together. And the question is, how can we have two people that find themselves in the same situation and one responds with significant stress and the other one does not? And the reason that can happen is it because it's all in our personalities and in how we have been raised and taught and how we experience the world. I want to say that again. There are some of us who have a natural personality that is more anxious than others. It is a given fact. Right? You tend to be a little bit more anxious than someone else. That's not a problem. It is just your bent. That is how you are. So don't ever let anybody convince you that because you are a little bit more anxious than other people that there's something wrong with you. That's just how you are. Now, what you do with that is a different story, right? So that's one. And then a lot of us were brought up in situations where we were never taught to manage stress and handle stress. We were never taught coping mechanisms. We were never taught ways to evaluate and to make decisions. We were never taught how to evaluate problems and come up with solutions. So when we find ourselves in a stressful situation, it's like we're shooting in the air, right? Everything is a guess game. And guessing causes people to be anxious. Right? It's kind of like in marketing and in sales, they say a confused mind does not purchase. Think about it. You go into the store, right? And you know you want a particular thing, and you get in there and they have like 3 different ones and you don't know how to evaluate them. What do? A lot of times, most of us wouldn't buy anything. We say, okay, I'll decide that later. And they leave. Same thing when we find ourselves in stressful situations. If we don't have a mechanism for how we manage stress, how we solve issues, how we solve problems, we don't have a way to evaluate, then we are confused and it becomes stressful. So a lot of us were never taught, we never learned the mechanisms that we needed to begin coping. And then a lot of us don't have a place, not necessarily to evaluate and learn to cope, but we don't have a place to release the stress. We're always going. We're always on the grind. We're always running. And if you find yourself always doing that, then that itself causes stress. So let's back up and let's go through those again. So number one, if you find yourself in a situation where you are stressed and you say, okay, this is just how I am. I'm just a naturally anxious person. Then the question that you've got to ask is, what do you have to put in place? What do you have to put in place to begin releasing some of that stress? It is how you are. It is your bent. It is your personality. But is there a way to mitigate? Is there a way to allow yourself to process things in a way that it does not add additional stress? Because once again, once you had the stress, guess what happens? Cortisol comes out. And cortisol's job is to raise those blood sugars. And if we raise the blood sugar, the body has to produce insulin to bring that blood sugar down. Right? So how do I mitigate? What do I need to do so I don't add additional stress? If you find yourself always stressed whenever some issue comes up, an interpersonal relationship issue, something on the job, you've got to make a decision about a house that you're buying or a shirt that you want to buy or a book that you want to read or a class that you're in. Hey, it sounds like you don't have a structure, a form, a way to make decisions and evaluate where you are and come up with solutions. So now this is, okay, where do I go to learn how to manage, how to organize, how to problem solve? Notice the distinction between those two. One, hey, what do I need to do so I don't add additional stress? What do I need to do to become more organized so I have a structure in how to manage and deal with and come up with solutions? Right? And then if you find yourself, hey, I'm not an anxious person and I do have a way of coming up with solutions. I'm very methodical. I have the ability to look and come up with a solution, but I still find myself stressed. What do you have in place to release the stress? Do you meditate? Do you journal? Do you exercise? Do you do yoga? Right? What are you doing to mitigate, to release? Because if you don't release, well, guess what? It's all building up and it's all growing. And because we're in that tonic, blood sugars are higher, insulin is higher, insulin comes out, and insulin causes all the issues that we just discussed. Okay? All right. Let's see. I heard some popping. Let's see. I think we may have some questions coming through. Jennifer says, in the past 9 months, I've been able to pull my A1C from 8.9 down to 5.2. Jennifer, what? Give you a hand clap for that. I didn't even finish reading the question or the thing, Jennifer. I just wanted to pause and give you a hand clap right there. Now, let me put it back up so I can finish reading it. So in the past 9 months, I've pulled my A1C from 8.9 down to a 5.2. Manjaro, exercise and weight loss of 88 pounds. Wow. I have more to lose, but am slowly moving to the rest of my life. Jennifer, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you. I love that. Love that. That's what we're talking about, people. Jennifer, kudos to you. Keep up the good work, and thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Key says, very true, never taught. You know what? My sisters and I have a conversation fairly frequently, and we talk about the way we were brought up. And there were 6 of us, there were 3 brothers, 3 sisters, plus cousins. People, a bunch of people were always at the house. And in the midst of all that, it took until we became adults, y'all. And I'm talking, when I say adults, I don't mean like 23, 24. I'm talking like later, to begin developing those behaviors, developing those things, those skills. And so I think it's something that we've got to begin talking to, even as my son is growing, I'm starting to talk to him about, hey, problem solving, right? So what do we do? How do we look at a problem? How do we look at this? So that he can begin seeing that, because if we don't do that, that itself predisposes us to disease processes in the future. Okay. Jennifer said, you are teaching me how to live past the medication. Thank you, Dr. Wood. Yes, Jennifer. Thank you. Remember, that's our goal, right? Our goal is, how do we get off this stuff? Right? We use it when we need it. We use it as a tool. But as we are moving forward, the goal is, and let me say this is a great plug. And Jennifer, thank you for that. Right? So I don't think I've said this officially, but let me say it now. So while we're using the medications, y'all, the goal while we're on the medication is to learn the skills that we need so that when the medication goes away, we can still function. So things like Manjaro and Ozempic, things like the SGLT2s that we talked about that help us with the management of our diabetes, they are bridges. And so while we're on those medications, the goal is to learn what we need to do so that when the medication goes away, we can still function. And the problem for the medical society, the industry, the profession, and the health profession is that we are not teaching that part of it. Now, we do an amazing job, by the way, of lowering blood sugars. We can do that. But we're not teaching what people need to know so that they can get off of the medication and still function and create the life that they've always wanted. So, cool. All right, so Tatiana says, I wish I was one of those people that ate less when stressed, but am one of those that want to eat more. Exercise, yoga, prayer, and talking it out helps me when I'm in a stressful situation. Thank you, Tatiana. That's right. So, Tatiana, I know there's a reason that that we get along so well. A lot of people will say, "Man, I got stressed and I don't eat." That has not been my experience. Right. So, we were talking about the HEAT, the habit, the emotions, the access and taste. So mine, right. And there's an order, but mine is the emotions and access. Emotions and access. I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm lonely, whatever it is, right? Remember we talked about the HALT, H-A-L-T, don't be too hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So the emotions, right, drive me to eat. and the access. So if I had the emotions, but I didn't have the stuff around, then I wouldn't do it. Now, I went out and I bought, like I love almonds and cashews, right? Because I figured, okay, these are healthier snacks. Well, so I'm here and I'm tired and I'm plowing down those nuts, guys. And guess what? You can eat enough almonds to cause the blood sugar to go really high. Right? So the emotions and the access. Now, one thing, and once again, Tatiana, I'm gonna say this to you, and you know this, right? Because being a creator, I'm gonna tell you, when I hit the button in a little while to stop the stream and I'm done, the amount of energy, right? The amount of emotions that are in me can light up a light bulb, can light up a lamp. That's how much energy you guys help me help infuse into me as I'm doing this, right? If I'm not careful, because once again, remember, it's not necessarily a negative emotion that causes it. If I'm not careful, if I have not come up with a way to manage the energy that I get from this space, I will find myself eating to calm down. Yeah. So it's that, yeah. And Tatiana says, and having fun. Yeah, definitely. You got to have fun. That helps as well. She said, Teresa said, I didn't know all that. I get stressed when I go to my doctor. Any solutions? Yeah. So the question, Teresa, is why, right? So why do you get stressed? And people get stressed for a lot of different reasons. Now I think, and you guys see me, right? So I think I'm a pretty fun-loving, jovial kind of person. But in the office, I have people who say to me, "Oh, I was afraid to come in today." Or I didn't want to come today because, I didn't bring my meter, or, I had a bad time last week and I ate some candy or whatever. And I say to them, and I'm going to say this to you, and you have to talk to your doctor. I want people, when they show up to the office, I want them to tell me that they ate ice cream and they ate, ho-hos and they ate Twinkies or whatever they ate. You know why? Because then we can have a conversation about what they ate. Because I don't want to take away the thing that they ate. Yeah, you guys are like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Yeah. So in the office, I never tell people not to eat anything. Like I've probably never said, hey, you can't eat that. Because you know what that does? And for you, if you're watching right now, if you're fighting to not eat something, like, oh, I can't eat ice cream, or I don't, I know I'm not supposed to eat this. If you're fighting that battle, you are losing the battle. You cannot win the battle over food just by willing it. The question is not what are you eating, but the question is why. Is it a habit? Fix the habit. Is it an emotion? Let's deal with the emotion. Is it the fact that it's access? You have access, it's right there. Then don't bring it in the house. And if it's a taste, right? What is the memory that's driving the taste? How do you switch the taste? The fasting helps with that, right? Understanding. And I have, I've got my New Year, New You cup, by the way, my mug. And we're going to be giving away one of these here coming up in a week or so, a couple of weeks. All right. So I've got my mug, and in this is unsweetened tea, and it's sweetened with an artificial sweetener. Now I'm going to tell you. Let me tell on myself. My wife can tell you if I've been drinking the artificially sweetened tea. You know why? Because when I drink it, I eat more. Yeah. So the taste, the question is why. So HEAT, habits, emotions, access, and taste. And so Teresa, talk to your doctor. Figure out why it is that you are anxious when you go to see them. Is there some interface that you guys have that's causing this? right? Is there something you're expecting or think he's expecting from you that's causing this? Yeah. All right. And Key Washington, she says, congratulations. That's right. Congratulations, Jennifer. We're so proud of you. So proud of you. And Jennifer, I want to say this to you. If you will send me a message, right? Send me a message and send me a picture of your A1C, right? I'm going to just say that right now. I will send you a certificate. Okay. Send me a message, on any of our social platforms. And let's get in contact, and send me a picture of your A1C, and I'll send you a certificate for that. Amazing. Let's see. Tatiana says interpersonal skills, communication skills, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, and self-care, all valuable to teach our younger folks. So right, Tatiana. That is so true. All of those skills, and once again, if you don't have those skills, then you find yourselves in a situation where you need the skill, and because you don't have it, then it becomes an issue and there's stress. Key says, same. I eat when I'm stressed. Tatiana said, heat and halt. That's right. Heat and halt. Right. Let's get out of the heat. Let's get out of the heat. Halt. And halt eating. Tatiana teaches, it's always E for me. Dang emotion. Yeah. We a lot of us struggle with that. And Key says, I drink unsweetened tea with nothing. All right. So let's hop over and let me do this really quickly. Let's see. What else was I? Let's go back over here. All right. So one conversation that I want to have, and let's do this. As you know, the way we do, I'm going to check my blood sugar. We're going to see what it is. Right now, this monitor says it's 111. That's the Freestyle Libre. Let's go ahead and look at our monitor, and I'm going to check my blood sugar first, and then we'll look at the ketones. All right, so we get our drop of blood. Get that on there. In a couple of seconds, we'll have that come up. Take all of these guys off. So 111. Hey, so that's pretty close, right? So, well, not pretty close, but that's exact. Let's pop this off, and let's go ahead and look at our ketones. Now, I expect, because I'm not fasting and because I've not been doing a ketogenic diet, that my ketones are probably going to be like 0.2 or something like that. Oh, let's see. That's my guess. Oops. Sorry, guys. I need to get another drop of blood. No. Okay. I'm going to have to stick myself again. That's okay. Drop of blood. Yeah, let's see what that gives us. And round and round we go. And 0.2. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so 0.2. And then let me go ahead and let's pop over here and get my Keto Mojo meter app, and it'll pull it over and it'll give us our GKI. Remember, the glucose keto index is your blood sugar converted into international units, divided by your ketones, right? So 111 divided by 18 divided by 0.2, right? So anyway, you don't have to know that formula. So 30. So with the GKI, in order for us to be in ketosis, we want the GKI, that number right there, that's 30.8. We want that to be as low as possible, and we want the ketones to be as high as possible. So if I look at my graph, you'll see up here, my blood sugars were high and my ketones were low. So I'm not in ketosis, but strolling back here, let's go back over here. Yeah, there we go. You'll see here the like turquoise looking line is high, and it was 3.6, and my blood sugar was lower, so I was ketosis. Remember, in ketosis, right? Let's just talk through that once again. When we are in ketosis, when we're fasting, the body is burning calories through fat. It's using ketones for energy. So it no longer needs to use sugar. And it is then that we begin seeing the weight loss that comes from from what we're doing. Okay, we can see the weight loss that's coming from what we're doing. All right, and your goal over this month was or is to work your way up so that you can fast for a 24-hour period, 124-hour period. That's what we're moving for the month. 124-hour period for this month. Okay. And this is a great place, I think, for us to do. And let me pull it up really quickly. Actually, let me go back here and just make another plug for our channel. If you've not done so, guys, please go ahead and do that. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, hit the, in the hashtag, put hashtag replay. Let us know that you're out there. If you see me in the social space, go ahead and say hello, because I'd love to connect with you and know that you're out there. Share this with your family and with your friends. Let them know what we're doing here in the space. We are reversing diabetes. We are taking our patients who have type 2 diabetes. We're reversing diabetes, getting them off of medications. And in the process of doing that, we're helping other people who may not have diabetes, but who have some of those other metabolic diseases. We're helping them to reverse their diseases as well. Okay. And so this is what I wanted to pull up. Okay. So that's a list of all the things that we've been doing. Starting tomorrow night, I will be going back and doing my fast. As you know, I do a fast once a week. And so my fasting day begins tomorrow evening. So I'll be fasting all Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Keep an eye out, keep an ear out so that you will see some of those check-ins that I'm doing as we move through the rest of the week, right? So tomorrow evening is when I'll have my final meal, and then we'll go into our fast. We'll be doing some check-ins there, and make sure that you come and you hang out with us. Well, this is a great place for us to do the thought of the day. So let's go ahead and do that right now. All right, so our thought of the day is this, that health is wealth. Health is wealth. You've heard me say several times, over and over, that the two most valuable things that we own are our time and our health. Without health, time does not matter. And without time, health is fleeting. So we've got to make sure that we're doing both. But your health is your wealth. If you have health, then you can create. If you have health, you can build. If you have health, you can make a difference. I want to encourage you that in the process of this year, as we move through the year, as we are moving through 2024, New Year, New You is more than just a slogan. It's more than just a theme here on the channel. It's more than just some words that I put on a t-shirt and that I put on a mug. New Year, New You means that you are taking charge of your health and you are managing this most valuable commodity that you have. Your health is your wealth. If you have health, you can rebuild relationships. You can forge new relationships, new commitments. You can learn, you can grow, you can evolve, you can leave a legacy. Your health is your wealth. As we move through the year, you want to make sure that you have done the things you needed to do, that you've gone back, that you've watched the show that says, hey, what are the first steps I need to take if I'm going to take charge of my health? And then come along and move with us, work with us. Join the community, join the channel, because your health is your wealth. And I want to be right there, just like Jennifer. And I want to spur you on. I want to cheer for you. I want to give you kudos and celebrate with you if you're watching right now, you're saying to yourself, man, I've done such a poor job of managing my health. Look at all these complications that I have. I've had a heart attack. I may have had an amputation. I may have lost some of my vision. My blood sugars have been crazy, out of control. It is never too late, because your health is your wealth. What you have is still valuable. So come along, hang out with me, hang out with us, work with me, work with us as we move into this new year, new you, y'all. Because health is wealth, and we can create the life we've always wanted in this space. And that's our thought for today. All right. So I think I see a couple more questions. Let's help and do that. Okay, Key said I drink unsweet. I think we looked at that one. Jeff said, do you ever use an alcohol wipe to clean your finger before you poke? Yes, I do that. Not always, but I do that. I guess I should bring one here so you can actually see that there's one, right? But yeah, I do, Jeff, but not always. Key says, good night. Tatiana says, what was HEAT again? Habit, emotions, access, and taste. Habit, emotions, access, and taste. Tatiana. Teresa says, no, it is all doctors. I think it's because I may get bad news. We appreciate you and your dedication to teach us. Love you for this. Oh, Teresa, thank you so much. Well, Teresa, yeah. So the question that and you know, send me a message. We maybe talk. Okay, how do we reframe some of that thing with the visit? Okay. And Tatiana said, thank you. Great to see you. Good night. Stay healthy, folks. Yes. All right. And so finally, folks, our ask, as we always do. Number one, our goal is that we are working together to be healthy, right? So for the month of February, 1 day a week, 24 hours a day, or 24 hour for the week, I want you to work your way to fasting. That's our goal for this month. Okay. We'll talk about more goals as we get into the month of March and so on. That's the first ask. Number two, come back to the community, right? The community is better. The community works when you are here, when you share, just like you saw a little while ago, Jennifer sharing a success, Tatiana talking about some of the things that goes on with her, Teresa and Key and Jeff. So glad that you guys are here. This community grows. This community gets better. We want to see what other people are doing. It helps to encourage us. It helps to encourage me. So thank you for sharing with us. And then finally, bring someone with you. Send a message, send a link, send a text. Let them know what's going on here on the channel as we work to move into a better space. As always, this is Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level, creating the life you've always wanted. And then this year, y'all, new year, new you. Good night.